Hello and welcome to this week's Give It to God live call hosted by Alison Larkin. I'm Sarah Hawksworth, Ali's colleague, here to walk you through a bit of housekeeping on how the call will run and what you can expect. Ali will open the call in a few moments and she'll speak on today's theme for 50 to 60 minutes, and we'll then open the call for 30 minutes of Q&A. There's two ways you can interact during the Q&A. You can come on the call and speak to Ali directly, which is her preference, to ask your question and receive some one-on-one coaching. You two can vibe together, or you can just submit your question in text form and Ali will answer it. This call is being recorded and will be posted on Ali's YouTube channel in a few days. But if you'd like to talk directly to Ali without your voice or your name being posted on YouTube, that's not a problem. We can remove it from the recording. Just please let us know. We ask that all communication is posted into the Q&A rather than the chat to make sure we don't miss any of your questions, and you can post them anytime during the call. You don't have to wait until the Q&A section starts. As I said, the recording will be posted on Ali's YouTube channel in a few days, which is at Alison Larkin on YouTube. We recommend having a pen and paper handy so you can take notes during the call as well, but obviously you can watch the recording when it's posted in a few days. And if you're watching on YouTube and you'd like to join us on next week's call, you'll find the link to join below. And I'll now hand over to Ali for today's call.
Hello and welcome to Give It to God, my weekly workshop, which is still in its infancy. If you're joining us here for the first time, because I know we do have some new people coming this week, which I'm very excited about. Sarah has just gone through everything that we'll be doing. We've got the same format every week. We do start with some silence together, sitting for 5 to 10 minutes in silence together as a group. I'll explain why in a minute. And I will also do a short prayer, which is basically just me talking to my own higher energy and the highest energy of everybody in the room, asking God to be with us while we go through this call. So this week's theme, I'm just imagining Sarah's face when I say this, because I've been meditating on it for the past couple of days. I've been traveling this week. My oldest daughter is moving apartments in London, which has been challenging to say the least. And I've been doing a lot of traveling and a lot of running around London in a car, which is not my favorite, but got through it. And the whole time I've been driving up and down to London and different places, I've been able to meditate like on the motorway and just constantly, meditating on what is the theme for this week's call. And I'll be honest, like I've got about six themes going on. So I'm going to encompass it all and call it What Do We Give to God? So the call is called Give It to God. And one thing that I kept hearing over and over again over the past couple of days is give what to God, Ali? What does that mean? Give what to God? So that's going to be like the all-encompassing um, theme. But knowing me, we're probably going to go down some tangents and some little alleyways. Did you get the pun there? To bring in some other things that I've heard this week through my body, learned about this week through working with my amazing clients and just from being out in the world. So give it to God. What do we give to God? That's the theme this week. But first of all, we'll join together some silence. If you're watching this on catch up, then I encourage you to just sit in silence rather than skip forward. Just sit in silence for 5 to 10 minutes with our eyes closed, being with our thoughts. Be aware of what comes up for your thoughts. Be aware of any discomfort you feel in your body when you sit in silence, when you sit in stillness. Be aware of what recurring thoughts come up. If you come every week, what thoughts come up each week when you're here. The place where we meet God, the place where we meet our highest energy, is in the stillness and the silence within ourselves. It's not out there, it's in here, it's inside of all of us, that energy. So, the very, very first way that we can meet God, in order to give it to God, to give it anything that we have within us, to give to God to guide us and lead us to an easier, more glorious path for us, is to sit in silence, is to sit in the stillness. So that's why we start every call this way. So I encourage everyone on the call just to close their eyes. Make sure you're sitting comfortably. I usually sit with both feet on the ground because it helps me feel grounded. But if you're sitting on the sofa or lying down or anything like that, whatever way you feel comfortable. So just close our eyes and we'll go into the silence and the stillness together. Okay, so I'm going to just welcome everybody to open their eyes and come back into the room. I have these thoughts every week when I'm doing that. Like I should have some kind of like alarm, something to nudge me back into the room because I could quite honestly sit there in silence for like 2 hours and get lost in the silence and not remember what I'm doing. So there's this little like thing on my shoulder going, remember and come back into the room the whole time. So I need to get like some sort of system where I'm sure Sarah will help me with this, where I remember to come out of the silence and come back in to the room. So we're going to start now, start the call with a prayer. One thing that I've noticed when I was looking back over my journaling, so I think I said this last week or the week before, where I start every day with a letter to God or a handwrite a letter where it's Dear God. And I end every day with the same thing, Dear God, and then I write whatever flows out of me at that time. One thing that I've noticed when I was looking back over the book for the past couple of months is in my morning prayer, there's one thing that's repeated over and over again is be with me, be with me. And I was reflecting on it this week and I was like, is it God being with me or is it me being with God? Regardless, it is asking God and myself, so the highest energy within me and the other energies that I carry within me, i.e. my personality, to be as one and go out into the world as one, go out and do God's work and spread God's love and be that highest energy wherever I go and whatever I do. And I will talk this week about how challenging that's been for me this week. So that's my prayer for today is be with us, be with everybody in this room, be with everybody that's watching on catch up or further down the line. Asking, all we can do is ask of ourselves and of that higher energy to become as one. And this call, this weekly workshop, any coaching that I do, any interaction that I have with anybody, it's always just what is the highest energy I can bring to that. And that's what I'm asking for on this call of God, but also of everybody in the room. Just bringing your highest selves, bringing your best selves. And sometimes that means that questions will come up, things will come up for you. And please do, if you feel called, ask a question at the end. So I will speak now until on the hour, and then I'll open the floor for a Q&A. And if you've got any questions that come up while I'm talking, then please do. I encourage you to come on and chat with me about them. This is your space to do that. So while I was sitting there in the silence with my eyes closed, I was like, oh, I forgot about this that happened that week, and I forgot about this, and like all of this, all of these like, memories and this information was flooding into my system for the first couple of minutes. And I a couple of months ago, I said to my friend that I saw myself sitting on a call like this where I was speaking freely about the things that has happened in my past that have brought me to this realization of the God energy that we carry within us, but also the lack of God energy that we carry within us, the opposite of God, which some people would call the devil or demons or um, that has lots and lots of different names. And we carry that full spectrum of energy within us. So we can access God and we can also access the opposite of God and what we choose to do with the accessing of that energy is our personalities out in the world. The theme is give what to God, right? That is what I'm going to speak about. I do promise you this, but I want to start just a little bit further back in that I've had a couple of conversations with people this past week where they've said, what is God? A lot of people have um, problems, challenges, connotations surrounding the word God due to a misunderstanding of organised religion, maybe a not so great experience with organised religion. I know for sure that was my challenges that I first had when I started walking down this path 6 years ago, was being raised Catholic and being raised with a wrathful God who was always watching to make sure that I was being good, and if I was in any way not good to the standards of my parents or the church or school, then the punishment was sent to hell for all eternity. So that growing up with that, God gave me a feeling around the name. So I was explaining it to someone recently, and I was like, well, just replace the word God with love, and then there's your answer. And today I was musing on it, and I was like, what is God? So I came up with this theory of what I believe God to be. I think the foundation of all of connection and humanity is unconditional love and curiosity. If we could look at every single situation in life with both unconditional love and curiosity, then we can work with connection to change the things that we don't prefer. So there's many things going on both in our house, in our body, and in the family structure, in the world at large, as a collective across the planet that we don't love, that we don't prefer. And what we tend to do both within ourselves in the micro and then out in the collective is if we don't love something, we have an energy of a lack of love. And lack of love is essentially fear, the energy of fear. And then there's lots of things that are derived from that energy. So there's shame, there's anger, there's grief. All of these are derived from the energy of fear, which is in turn lack of love. So the only thing I've said this many times before, I used to say there's only love or fear. That's it. And we consciously or subconsciously choose one or the other. And then I came to this understanding within myself that that's not actually true. There's not love or fear. There is only love or lack of love. So if we're not vibrating at a frequency of unconditional love, then anything other than that is a lack of love, and that feels like fear in the body. When I was meditating this week, um, in the week past, I heard the mantra that I have been repeating to myself, and I can't begin to tell you how much I needed this mantra in so many ways in the past 2 days. Which was, it came very clear through my body. It was, I command the cells of my body to return me to a state of pure love. And I was journaling, I was meditating, then I was journaling, and I began to write it automatically in flow. And I was writing it over and over again, over and over, over and over. I command the cells of my body to return me to a state of pure love. This mantra, this saying just flooded into my system during meditation. It happened at a time when I didn't know that in the space of a couple of days I would really, really need that mantra. So I was driving up to London the past 2 days. Anybody that knows me, I'm not a natural driver, shall we say. I don't know if I've ever met a natural driver, but it's definitely not something that I have a natural capacity for. I learned late in life. I'm still somewhat quite nervous when I'm driving, especially driving in the city of London. It's a bit wild. My oldest daughter was moving house. That was challenging in itself. So she's a student. She lives with another couple of students. That some of them are moving to the new place, some are not. So there was like all the dynamics of basically moving different people into different places. And I was tired from travelling because I'd travelled back to the UK to help her, and there'd been delays with the flights. The UK's in the middle of a heat wave. There was loads going on. I had my period, like loads and loads of stuff going on. And I was driving up to London repeating that mantra. I drove up and down, and then the next day I drove past London and then had to come back in through London. And anytime anything was challenging me on the journey, the mantra would just flood through my system. I command the cells in my body to return me to a state of pure love. And then I was meditating on what is that? What is pure love? And God is pure love. So this morning while meditating, I was taking that a bit further, and that I was like, right, well, unconditional love and curiosity. Well, God is all knowing, okay, because the energy of God created every single thing that we can see on the planet. So it's an all-knowing energy. It's knowledgeable on every single thing on the planet. So in order to reach the knowing, we have to go through the gates of curiosity. So that would tick the box for me, that God is unconditional love and curiosity. And the third one this morning that I meditated on was truth. Love and truth vibrate at the same frequency. And how we I've never met someone, I've never coached someone, I've never met someone, I've never had a conversation with someone. I can't ever imagine having a conversation with someone where I would say, would you want to be in anything other than a state of truth? And the answer would, people don't want to be in anything other than a state of truth. Okay, we want to be truthful. We want to be truthful with ourselves, and we want to be truthful with the world round about us. Why is it important? Well, truth is unconditional love, okay? The truth, our own truth, understanding the truth of who we have created in our personality, most of the time unconsciously without knowing, being able to look in the mirror and seeing the truth of who you are in this system, in this body that we come in. And I said this last week, that it's long been said, and by far greater minds than mine, that um we are not humans having a spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. This human body, the personality, the physical system, all of this makes up the experience that our spirit is having. And while that spirit is important, while this experience that we are having is important, it is not God, it is not the spirit, it is a play that is played out in front of us every single day in order to show us the energies that we're carrying within us, in order to show us what we are putting out into the world. Why that's happening, I have no idea. My take on it is it's happening for an evolutionary purpose. We're always evolving, and some of that involves purification of the system, and that involves having these plays of our lives play out in front of us. I think the word for it is Maya, is it the illusion? It's like this projection of our energies is played out in the material world out in front of us. And we take part in it. Okay, so we're like actors in this play, and in your own play, you are the main character, and everybody round about you is characters that you have created through the energies, and you've drawn them towards you to take part in the play of your life. That's wonderful if you're sitting there and you're enjoying the play and you're having a really good time. But if you're in the midst of challenges, which I have been this week, and by the way, and I'll tell you the story of where I came to, like when I changed my perception of these challenges, and that's my hope always for these calls, is that you will come here, I will sit here, we will vibe together at the Q&A section, where you will have a perception on a challenge in your life, and we'll sift through any blockages that you've got, any stagnant energies, any stagnant emotions. We'll take you from a place of lack of love, i.e. fear, back to alignment with God, back to asking God to be with us and us being with God on the call. And that in turn will change your perception, and you will be able to go back out into this play of your life, and act accordingly, act with God flowing through your system, rather than your made up personality that you've garnered along the way. So it's another instance of me going down rabbit holes and forgetting why I went down them. So I need to bring myself back. So what is, right, I'm going to take myself back to this. What is God? So God is unconditional love, curiosity. Curiosity is the gate through which we're walking through to get to knowledge, more knowledge, and knowledge is power. It's something that I've been saying to my clients so much this week. Knowledge is power, especially when the knowledge does not feel good on the way into the system. Okay, that is one thing that I want everybody in here to change their perception on, to get to a place where you can have new knowledge, and it might not feel good while you're learning it, but it's extremely powerful. And I'll tell you the story of how this played out in my life this week. So unconditional love, curiosity, which leads to knowledge, and truth. And the hardest one is truth, right? The most challenging one that we all find is the to vibrate a frequency of truth. The easiest person to fill is ourselves. Every single person in here, every single person on the planet. The easiest person to fill is yourself because you live in that body, you live in that system, your consciousness resides in that system. And because we have grown up in an environment where we have stepped away from unconditional love, every single person, which leads us more towards the spectrum of lack of love, which places fear, then what we're essentially trying to do is trying to combat fear, which in essence is trying to make us feel safe, which overall is trying to get us back to a place of unconditional love and protection and safety that we receive from the energy of God. So it's like we're in this vicious circle with ourselves. So we tell ourselves these stories that are not vibrating at pure truth, that keep us safe and this knowledge that we're okay over here in a lack of love. But if we could just tell ourselves the truth, we could get back over here to love and know that we're always safe at all times anyway. And one of the things, my tea, because it's going to get cold, wait a wee second. And guess what? It's already kind of cold. One of the things that also came through while I was meditating on the plane here the other day was quite often my clients will ask me quite often, I've spoke about it on calls and on workshops, and I love this I've come to love happening, and it ties in with the truth, is when I'm quite resolute in something, and then and then I'll get new information come through my body, or read it or study it or learn it somewhere else, and I'm like, oh, okay, that kind of flies in the face of something I said 2 weeks ago. So this is one of those instances where that's happening, where often I will talk about the ego, which is the character that we created, the personality, and God as being two separate things. And while I was meditating on the plane the other day, I heard God created the ego, so the ego is also God. And I was like, oh, okay. So like I'm having these conversations with my clients where I'll say, well, tell me what happened in that story. And everyone, if you've been in my programs for a while, or if you've been in my circle for a while, it's like we all use the same words when we're describing things, which is, my clients will say to me, well, my ego piped up, my ego got me to do this, my ego got me to do that. And the first step is always awareness, right? It's great that we can understand that it was the ego that did it, and not the highest version of ourselves. But then I'm on the plane and I hear, well, God created the ego as well, and God's the highest energy that we've got on the planet that we have access to. So therefore, the ego is God. So I had to meditate on that, and like my mind was blown all over this EasyJet flight. And I was like, okay, but it does also make sense because God created and I've said this before, I think I need to look this up because every time I say this quote, I always say I think that it was Carl Jung, and I need to just at some point go and find out if it was Carl Jung that said it. So if you're watching this and you've heard the quote and I've got it right, then give me a thumbs up. And if I've not, then please tell me who said this quote. That the ego is the petri dish in which all alchemical transformation takes place. We need the ego for the purification of the system in order to realign ourselves with the highest energy. So God created the ego. So the ego is also God because everything's God. So this idea of, well, my ego asked me to do that will always have to be taken back to, well, why would God, because God is also your ego, why would God ask you to do that? What is it that needs to be learned from that? What is it that we can have knowledge on? We can have unconditional love and curiosity, then knowledge, then power to then change our perception and then change the play that's playing out in front of our lives. So that is another huge learning that I've had this week about not creating that disconnection between my highest self and my ego, and just understanding that it's actually all one thing. And the ego or the personality, or I did this thing so that I could learn this thing, because what we tend to do when we're talking about the ego is we talk about the ego in terms of having done something wrong or something that's less than beneficial is another way that I put it to my clients. But it's still God. God is still asking you to do those things. God is still working through you at all times. God is still the one that's powering everything that you do. So even if it's less than beneficial, then why would God want you to do something less than beneficial? Always, always, always for the evolution of your consciousness, so that you can learn something. So if I put it into um a real life story. And I will come back to the theme of what are we giving to God. I promise I'll get back there. As always, I'm just going to say this now, that if you do have any questions with anything that I'm saying, jot them down now. I'm not going to answer them now. I won't bring you on now, and I won't answer them, but you can jot them down now, and I'll look at the Q&A in 30 minutes or so when we're finished this section. So I drove to London to help my daughter move house, and like I said, these plays, these acts of a play that play out in front of us every single day, like you could imagine like your day is split into like different acts, and there's like the interval is us sleeping, and then we wake up, and then we've got act one and act two and act three, and you're the main character, and you've got all these other characters that are, your husband, your wife, your children. They're all different characters in the play of your life, and it's all been projected into the 3D world that you call your existence, your life, and that we as a human species have got so much investment in, invest so much of our time and our energy into the beliefs that we have to cling on to these things that are happening in front of us, when actually all it is a 3D manifestation of the energy that we carry inside. If we can detach ourselves from that in that way and look at it through a different perception, through the eyes of God, then we can enjoy it more, first of all, and also we can change our reality for the better, for a more glorious path for ourselves. So I woke up on Monday morning after the interval, which was my sleep, and I proceeded into Act One of the play of my day. As I said, the UK is suffering from a heat wave. I go to the hire car place in the town next to where I'm staying. I've got my youngest daughter in tow with me, who's 10, who was given the day off school. She was so unbelievably happy about it. She does not enjoy school. She was given the day off school by me and her dad to come to London and see her sister, and also to help somewhat with the move, but so that I didn't have to be back in time to collect her from school at a certain time. So as it's near the end of the term, her dad was like, yeah, just take her to London with you. So she was really, really excited about it. She woke up, jumped up out of bed, no Monday morning blues, because she's not going to school. She's instead going on this adventure to see her sister. So point one in the act of this wonderful play, and let's challenge Ali and see what's in her system that needs to come up to be seen. As my youngest daughter does not like walking anywhere. My oldest daughter would walk the length of Britain. My youngest daughter would not walk the length of herself. I've got no idea why. No, that's not true. My oldest daughter, I didn't drive when she was little. My youngest daughter, she's always had a mother who's had a car. So we had to cross the bridge, both literally and symbolically, to go and get the hire car. So there was a bit of a challenge in trying to get Francis G'd up to cross the bridge, which by the way it's not a huge bridge, it's a footbridge. It takes about 4 minutes to get from one side to the other. It's really nice. It's over a really, really picturesque river. There's dogs, there's fish in the river, it's gorgeous. She grumbles. So anyway, we got across. I checked the times for the buses, etc., and we got across, and we got to the hire car place, and things were different to how they usually were. And in the sense that it wasn't the lady who usually serves me, because I quite often hire cars when I'm back in the UK. I walk in, she knows me by name, she knows Frances by name, we've spoke to each other, I know stuff about her life, she knows stuff about my life, we talk about holidays and places we've visited and things like that. and she was sitting behind the counter, but she was not serving me. Her colleague was serving me. I'm not sure if the lady was new or if they were trying a new system, but she started asking me lots and lots of questions that I'd never been asked before. I'd already like kind of hyped myself up for the drive to London, so I was not operating at my usual self because I was a bit heightened because I knew that I was going to have to make this drive into central London. And then I expected it to be a certain way, and it was not, because there's the lady that serves me. Here's this new lady. She's asking me questions I'm not used to being asked. And I said to her at one point, by the way, I don't have my bank card with me, so can I pay with Apple Pay? And she went, oh, sometimes the Apple Pay works and sometimes it doesn't. I said, okay, and what would happen if it didn't? We wouldn't be able to give you a car. And I was like, okay, I need the car today. And I could feel myself starting to get heightened, and I asked Francis to sit down, and I could feel the agitation rising in my body. And I took a moment and I put my hands on the counter, which is unusually high. And I put my hands on the counter and I was like, just relax, like give it to God. Okay. What does that mean? Give what to God? Give over this feeling of fear that you have within yourself that something's going to go wrong here, and that you're not going to get the car and you're not going to be able to help Bailey and all this stuff. It's like I've got this play is 3 acts ahead, and things are going terribly, terribly wrong, instead of just being here in the presence, which is the only place that God lives. So I put my hands on the counter and I was like, okay, give it to God. Like you're safe. You're safe, right? Nothing's happening. Nothing, if you can't get the car, you can't get the car. We then come up with the next thing that we have to do. We'll figure it out. We, as in me and God, right? I'm having this conversation internally, the women's typing. And then there was this thing with the system. The lady who usually serves me, she reached over, she went, why are you doing that? And she said, oh, I need to do this DVLA thing. She went, no, no, we don't do that for Ali. Like, she gets it all the time. You don't have to worry about it. Don't go any further with that, because what it might happen is it might cancel her order. And I was like, standing there like, okay, relax, relax, relax. Give it to God. Give it to unconditional love. Give it to curiosity. Give it to truth. Right, how do I do that? Unconditional love for the situation that I'm in. My central nervous system is heightened because I know what's coming up. I'm about to do something that's challenging me, that's going to challenge me. There's a change in the situation of how things usually go. I usually walk in, Pat's gets me to sign the thing, gives me the car keys, I walk out and I drive away. Now we're in a bit of a different situation. There's a problem on my end in that I don't have my bank card with me. By the way, it was with the daughter in London. Um, so things might be more challenging because maybe the Apple Pay will work, maybe it won't. Okay. Then I got this feeling of just relief coming over my body where I was just like, if I'm not supposed to get this car, God's about to show me, right? Unconditional love, curiosity, which comes through knowledge, knowledge that comes through the door of the gate of curiosity, and truth. I'm about to be shown it in the projection of my world, my energy onto my projected 3D world in front of me. If I'm not supposed to get a car from this place, God's about to show me. And just like this feeling of relief come over me where I was just like, oh, I'm not in charge. I don't have to control this situation. I don't have to do that. This isn't on me. This is on God. And God's about to show me what's going to happen here today. And I just stood there, and Frances was sitting on the chair, and she's very chatty, and she's like, Mummy, are we getting a car? What are we going to do, Mama? Are we going to go to see Ailey? Are we going to have to get the train? And she's asking all these questions. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what's about to happen. Let's see what happens. So the woman's typing, and then she goes, okay. And she pushes the card machine towards me, and she's like, see if it'll take your Apple Pay, tap your phone. So I tap my phone at the side and it goes ding, but nothing come up, it comes up on your app that you've spent the money. And she went, oh, that's promising, because usually it dings and then we do it again. So I was like, okay. So it dinged and then I did it again. It went through. Everything was fine. Not only was everything fine, she went and got the car keys and she came back and she put them on the desk, and Pat's the lady that's usually there went, "Oh, that's a really good car for moving house. That's like one of the biggest cars that we've got in the fleet. Well done. That's so good that she's got that one." And I was immediately like, "Yes, right, okay." So I I took it, it came out of my hands. I gave it to God. I was just standing there and I was like, I'm fine if I get the car and I'm fine if I don't, because whatever happens is exactly what's supposed to happen in my life today. That is exactly the way that it's supposed to be. So it's like, right, Act One's over, get in the car. So I get in the car, which by the way, is a bus. Basically it's like a minibus, and immediately I'm like, right, okay, am I capable of driving this car? And I sat on the driver's seat, and again was like, well, God must think I'm capable because I've got the keys to it, and this is the car that I've got for a week. So God must think I'm capable of driving this car. And we start making the journey to London. I'm driving along, it's absolutely fine. Francis in the back seat is going swimmingly. There's not heavy traffic as we're driving along the M25. Everything's great. And then we get into central London and I forgot to give it to God. So what happened was God reminded me twice. And I needed the second nudge. I needed the first nudge and then I needed the second nudge. So I put my daughter's address in the sat nav and realised, because I've done the trip a few times, realised that I was on a road that I'd never been on before, and I was like, I don't know why it sent me this way. And at this point, I'm in central London. It's 30 degrees, it's warm. I'm in a big car. We've been driving for over 2 hours, and I was like, right, I don't recognise this street. And I just happened to look down at the sat nav and I saw that the pin was not sending me to my daughter's address that I'd put in, it was actually sending me to a church. If ever we needed a big nudge. And I was like, right, that's not where I'm going. And so I pulled over and I put the address back in the sat nav. And I kid you not, every time I put the address in the sat nav for Ailey's address, it just wiped it out the sat nav and it instead sent me back to this church, St. Aloysius. And I was like, I don't know why this is happening. So because I was too hot, because I was thirsty, because I was tired from the driving, I wasn't immediately as present in my body as what I had been in the car hire place in the morning. So I'll be honest, and this is something that I'll probably hear about for the next couple of years from Francis. I swore under my breath because it just kept saying it back to St. Aloysius. And at one point I said the F word. I thought I whispered it under my breath. I said, that's not where I'm going. I'm going to Ailey's address. And that night at the dinner table, Frances very politely was like, Mama, did you say I swear today? And she brought that up at the dinner table, and I had to apologise. And I said I wasn't my best self at that point. She was like, yeah, I was quite surprised that you said that because we've been talking a lot about the energy behind words. So it was this learning opportunity where I told her that I was afraid and that the fear had caused me to use a word that I wouldn't normally use, and certainly wouldn't normally use in her presence. So so a couple of times I was trying to get to Ailey's and couldn't figure it out, said the F word. Eventually saw that I was on a street near to where her apartment was, so I was able to get to her apartment from there, and pulled in across the street. In retrospect, and there's many people will call things like this a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence. I know for certain that my body, the highest energy within me, the God that I carry within me, which is this amazing, creative, knowledgeable, powerful, full of unconditional love, full of knowledge, full of power, full of truth, energy, was guiding me towards St. Aloysius Church to nudge me, to tell me something for what was about to happen in my day. And I'll tell you how I came to that conclusion. When I arrived, my older daughter was not as organised as what I would have liked for the move, and I could feel tensions in the house with all the girls and also in myself, and that I was like, right, I've got to try and get this stuff from here to the storage unit, and it's a lot. It's a lot of things that I don't personally love doing, like hauling boxes into a car and having to find the storage unit in London and drive to a storage unit in another town, and it's not my favourite. And what I had to keep doing over and over again is being like, stop being in your head, stop being in a state of fear, which is not love, which is not God. You're taking yourself back over to the ego, which yes, of course, is God, but it's not as comfortable as what you would just be if you just let go and just give it all to God. I could feel myself getting more and more heightened as the afternoon was going on, and we were packing up the car. My oldest daughter was also getting more heightened because, she was helping, and we were kind of like going like this off against each other's energy. There was lots of other people around. There was a lot going on. Frances is just like sitting there and amongst it all playing games on her iPad. And we go to the storage unit, we get lost on the way to the storage unit. And at this point, I'm just like, I'm so tired, I'm so done in. Like, we've been clearing the house for hours, I've been driving for hours, there's so much going on. And I asked Ailey to go out the car and see if she could find on foot where the storage unit is. And at this point now, it's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in London, in central London, on a Monday afternoon. So there was a lot of traffic and a lot of people around. And Ayla went out on foot and she came back and she's like, look, we just missed one turning, like I can show you where it is, we'll go back round. And we went back and we were putting the stuff in the storage unit. And there was a lot of tension between the two of us, and I had to then drop her back to her house, collect something from her house and take her somewhere else because she was going out that night. So there was a lot going on. And when I tried to get back to her house again, it sent me back to St. Aloysius. And I said to her, I was like, every time I'm trying to come to your house, it keeps sending me to St. Aloysius Church. And because she's my daughter and we're very similar, she said, well, Mum, maybe you're supposed to go there. Like, what is it? What's St. Aloysius Church? Why did you keep getting sent there? And I was like, oh, it's something symbolic that's going on. I was like, I'm not sure if I have to go into the church or there's something about St. Aloysius. Like, I need to go and figure this out. And I was so anyway, at the end of the day, dropped her off, and I was driving back down to Sussex, which takes at this point it's rush hour traffic. It's taking another like 3 hours. Didn't get home till very late that night, and I was driving along the motorway, and I was thinking about all the times that I had moved house as a single parent when Ayla was growing up, and could feel myself at first having this perception of it because I was tired, because I was hungry, because I was physically and emotionally feeling a lot because of what had gone on for the day, and even just the physical exertion, but also the emotional exertion of driving in places that I don't feel comfortable driving in new places and having to move stuff and all of this. And I could feel myself starting to get heightened about it, like, all these times that I moved house by myself and I would have to just pack up a house, and I'd also have this child with me, and no one was there to help me, and I started to get into this feeling sorry for myself mode. And driving along, and Frances in the back of the car, she's fine, she's like chatting away to herself and keeping herself occupied. And all of a sudden, like just this big sob escaped out my body. I was just like, while I'm driving. And it was relief and um, bliss. Bliss. I had to search for the feeling there because I was unsure of what it was. Relief and bliss and gratitude, and it engulfed my whole body. And it felt very good, okay? Gratitude feels really good in your body. Bliss feels really good in your body. Relief feels very good in your body. And I was surprised that that's what it was in the midst of a moment where I was actually in the grips of lack of love, of ego, of feeling sorry for myself, of wanting to G myself up in this poor alley. Like I had to, I was a single parent and I'm moving house and I had this story in my head about, and I was replaying it in my mind about I had this little green Corsa, a little car, and how I packed all the house up one day and we were moving house and I packed all the stuff into my little green Corsa and I made like 10 trips between these two houses. They were a few miles apart and I did it all myself, and how my mother turned up hours later and I was like, no, it's done. Like I did it at 10 o'clock this morning and she thought that was moving that afternoon. And instead of just calling up and asking for help, I, soldiered on because that was who I was back then. And, I moved house by myself and I didn't have someone driving me about and like all this just angst and not feeling great. And then to just all of a sudden just be engulfed with this feeling of relief and bliss and gratitude, that I was driving along and I was like, I just heard how amazing is it to be exhausted from doing something that you love, like doing something for someone you love. Like what a privilege it is to be exhausted from that. And that I actually didn't often give my mother the capacity to be exhausted from things like that, because I would never have asked for her help, because I, I'm not putting it all on myself. I'm like, sometimes I didn't trust the help that I would have been given by my mother, and likewise I'm not berating my mother for that. We come from different generations. My mum was a wonderful, wonderful lady who also came with a lot of challenges. I never gave my mother the capacity to help me in a lot of the things that I needed help with in my life. Likewise, she didn't have the capacity to help me with a lot of the things that I needed help with in my life, based on the generation that she grew up in and the environment she grew up in and the way that her life was. But I just had this feeling of what a privilege it was to have the capacity to be. I mean, my mother couldn't even drive. Like I've got a driving license. I can hire a car. I can drive to London. I can help my daughter, and then to be exhausted from it and just to be exhausted and be caught up in the personality and caught up in the play and forget that it is actually just a plane, that I don't need to attach myself to it, and being caught up in all these feelings that don't feel great, and then getting to this place where God took over. That higher energy within myself just took over and it just engulfed my whole body, and I was just like, what a privilege it is to be exhausted from helping my daughter, from helping someone that I love so much, and that she's actually given me this privilege of being able to mother her in this way. That lasted Monday night. Then Tuesday came along. Francis went to school. I had to drive back up. I had to go to another storage unit, which is a bit further outside of London. And on the way, I called my wonderful daughter, my firstborn, my first love, and I asked her, could she do some things her end, because I had to drive to this other storage unit, drive back through London, and then come back down to Sussex. And I had to do all of this in time to collect Frances from school at 5 p.m. because she was in an after school club. And because I'd set off a bit later because there was other things going on, and then there was an accident on the M25, or an incident on the M25, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to do all this. And I called my wonderful firstborn and I forgot to give it to God. Even though I'd had all this great feeling the night before, I forgot to give it to God. And me and her got into a bit of and she hung up the phone on me. And I was driving along and I saw her name come up as a text. And just as I was driving past the service station, and I was like, right, I'm going to pull into the service station to see what she said, because we'd argued a bit and she'd hung up. And I opened the phone and I had a very long tirade from my firstborn that I was not best pleased about. And I was sitting there and I could feel myself getting carried away with annoyance and anger, and my fight or flight kicked in and I wanted to fight. And by the grace of God, God was with me in that car. I had no signal. I had the little E, and her name is Ailey and it begins with an E. It was up in the top right hand corner and I could not phone my child and exude all of this fear that I was carrying inside me. By the grace of God, I could not do that. God made it the wonderful, free-flowing universe that we live in that wants everything to be glorious and easy and wonderful would not let me make that phone call, would not let me reply back to that text. So I read it again, I read the text again, I read the text again. I was in an area with no signal and I was like, all you can do is keep driving. I got back in the car and I started driving and I knew then that it was the God within me that had not that had allowed me to drive into a place with no signal. And I was like, okay, you're not driving again and you're not stopping again until you get to your destination. So I just was driving along and I was like, no, you're going to meditate on this. You're not going to call her back. You're not going to text her back. You're going to meditate on this. You're going to give both you and her lots and lots of space. And I was just driving along the motorway. And I started thinking to myself, right, what's a different perception of this? How can I bring God into this car with me? How can God be here with me? How can I give it to God? And I was like, right, some of the stuff that she said in the text was not easy to read, right? And takes us back to unconditional love, curiosity, and truth. And this is where this idea of truth, along with the other two foundations of God, started to come into alignment. Where I was like, okay, what if what she's saying is half true? Like because you know what happens when you get into an argument with someone. It's like you're not just talking about this thing that happened to you. You're talking about something that happened 10 years ago and 10 years before that, and loads of stuff. And you always behave like this, and this is this thing that you do. And I was like, right, okay. And my immediate response is I want to defend myself. I want to fight or flight kicks in. I want to fight and I want to go, no, wait a minute. Like you don't even know you're born. I'm driving up and I'm doing this, and my mother never did that for me. And this is all swirling about in my head. And by the grace of God, I had this 2 hour stretch in front of me on the M25. And I was like, okay, what if it's true? The easiest person to fool is yourself. What if what she's saying is true? How does that make you feel? And I was like, right, well, not great. Right. And then I was like, right, what if it's half true? What if some of it's true and some of it's not? Be curious about it. Be curious about what she's saying. Have unconditional love for the situation. And I'm playing it all in my head, what had happened and how we'd got to this part and what I had brought to the conversation that was not kind and what she had brought to the conversation that was not kind. And eventually I get to where I'm going and on the way there I got lost again. The sat nav sent me through a town I'd never been to. And I was like, oh, okay. So based on sending me to St. Aloysius Church, let's see why I'm in this town. And what had happened was I was going to visit someone I know up at my storage unit, and her favourite flowers are, I need to make sure I get the name right, agapanthums. And I knew that you can buy them along with sunflowers at this time of year in Marks and Spencer, but you can't buy them in Waitrose. And in the town that I was driving to, there was only a Waitrose and there was no Marks and Spencer. And as I'd set out that morning, I'd thought to myself, if I pass a Marks and Spencer or if I can pull over at any point and find a Marks and Spencer nearby, I want to specifically get agapanthums. And I know because I've looked in Waitrose for them and I know that they do them in Marks and Spencer because I'd seen them a couple of days before in the local one. If you're not from the UK, these are just two very nice supermarkets that we have in the UK. So I was driving along and the sat nav sent me to a town I'd never been, and I was driving round the roundabout, and there was a huge Marks and Spencer in front of me, and just straight away I just saw the flowers in my head with the sunflowers and the agapanthus. I'm not sure. Need to look that up as well. And because at first I was like, I don't know this place. Where am I? Why am I in this town? I don't know. This isn't the town that I was supposed to go. Why is my sat nav sending me all these places I don't know? And then I turned around the roundabout, and there was the shop that I had said to my body, to my system. It flooded through my system that morning. I spoke to God about it without realizing that I was intentionally speaking to God about it. That I wanted to go to Marks and Spencer because I wanted to get a specific bouquet of flowers, and my body, very intelligent, all powerful, all knowledgeable, all amazing, brought me to that shop so that I could get those specific flowers. And when I visited the lady with the flowers, she was so happy that I had remembered that they were her favourite flowers, and that those were the ones that I brought. So that little detour that I went on was done on purpose by God. So when we let go, so that morning when I had said to myself, oh, if I pass a Marks and Spencer, or I could pull over and I could look for a Marks and Spencer on the way, then I'll do that. I didn't have loads and loads of emotions attached to it. I wasn't trying to control it. It was just a imprint, like a flash of inspiration that came into my body and then let it and then left again, and I completely let go of it and surrendered it. I forgot that I asked for this situation to happen in the play of my life. And then but my body didn't forget. My body was like, oh, here, look, there's that thing that you were asking for. And it was happened very, very easily, very in a lovely way, right? Okay, like I got lost and I was a bit, or lost, and I got sent on a detour, and I was a bit like, why am I here? Why is my sat nav doing that? And it's like, no, 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 you asked for this. Remember, you asked for this, and we're just taking you, we, as in the plural of me and God, are just taking you where you need to go to get that thing that you asked for, which is the same. I'm going to be able to tie this whole story up with a neat little bow. The same thing happened with the argument that I had with my daughter, and because all I've been asking for the past 6 months in my morning manifesto that I listen to every day is that I have a very, very strong relationship with my daughter, and that both my daughters, but I have specific things that I ask for every day that I'm manifesting through my morning manifesto. I've got specific things for Ailey and specific things for Frances. And one of the things for Ailey is that she will trust me implicitly. She knows that I can help her in anything that she needs help with. She knows she can rely on me if she's unable to do something and she needs extra help with it. The first person she's going to call is her mother, and then I'm going to be the person that's going to help her. So I listen to this morning manifesto, which is a recording of my own voice. I listen to that every single day. And so I'm feeding the cells in my body, the programming of my subconscious, the program that is my system. I'm feeding this information every day that this is my desires. And then the God energy within me is like, right, okay, well, I'm going to bring you that desire that you're manifesting. And along the way, I'm going to purify your system to make sure that when you get the thing that you want, that you enjoy it. And that purification along the way looks like an argument with Ailey on the day that she's moving house. So I'd meditated for a couple of hours in the car. I'd bought the flowers, I'd gone and visited. And then I was driving back down through London to pick her up. And we'd created all this space in between the two of us in this time where, we didn't call or text each other. And then I was leaving the other town, and I noticed that I had a missed call from her. And I went to call her back, and she sent me a text, and she was like, what time will you be here to collect me? And I was like, I'm leaving now. I'll be there within 2 hours. And she messaged back and she said, I'm sorry for what I said earlier. I feel like I might actually get a bit emotional here. And I didn't, at this point I was driving, it just flashed up when I was driving. I was like, okay, I want to apologise for my part in person. And so I drove back, sent me to St. Aloysius College again, and this is where I found out what God was nudging me towards here. Um, when I eventually pulled up at Ailey's flat and researched who St. Aloysius was and what he's a patron saint of, and she got in the car and I said, look, first things first, I'm going to apologise for my part in that conversation this morning for what I said. You're right. Some of the things I said were not beneficial and less than kind. And she did that thing where, no, no, it's okay. And I was like, no, it's not okay. Don't just say it's okay. You can say, I accept your apology and thank you for apologising, but don't say it's okay. It's not okay for me to speak to you like that. It's not okay for me to be heightened. It's not okay for me to forget who I am and not show up as my best self. It's not okay. I'm sorry. I want you to just be with those words. And she was like, okay, thank you, I accept your apology. And she said, and I'm sorry too. And we had a great drive back down to Sussex together. We had so much fun. We were laughing and joking the whole way. And then I was like, oh, look at me getting that thing that I've been asking God for every single day for 6 months and my morning manifesto. I'm asking for it. God's trying the hardest to give it to me, and I'm resisting it along the way. And when I looked up Saint Aloysius and what he's the patron saint of, it was students. My daughter's a student. I'm a student. We're all students of life, right? But more than anything, my first interpretation of it was, well, Ailey's a student, and God was saying to me, you're the mother, right? Okay, she's 26. You're the mother, like bring mother energy to this, bring your best self, bring your God-given mother energy to it. Don't revert back to the little maiden that wants to fight everybody when your emotions are heightened because you're driving through London. You're well equipped to drive through London. We've equipped you with a really, really great car, a big safe car with plenty of space for all the things to put into storage. You're equipped, you can do this. If I wasn't able to do it, I wouldn't be sitting in that car. The only thing that I am in any way have any influence over is my perception of everything that's happening round about me in this play that we call life. And twice in the space of 2 days, I forgot myself. I forgot I was God. I didn't bring God into the car with me or bring God into the room with me. And my body remembered, which I think is a really, really wonderful learning. My body remembered because it flooded my system with gratitude on the first night. And it remembered the on yesterday when my body sent me into a space with no signal, so I couldn't go back into fight or flight. What I was given by God was space and time, and the act of meditation as I was driving along the motorway, that I could be like, right, remember what God is: unconditional love, curiosity, knowledge that comes through curiosity. Be curious about what's happening, have unconditional love for what is happening, and have truth. Have truth with yourself, have truth with the other people that's in the situation with you, have truth for the whole situation. Just the truth of reality. It's like not resisting reality, because whatever's happening in the present moment is happening so that you can get the things that you desire. I got the things that I desired yesterday and the day before, like, and then some. I got the car, I got a big enough car, even though I didn't have my bank card, even though there was stuff going on with the system. Every time I just let go and just was like, do you know what? I'm giving it to God. Every single time that happened, God came through, the higher energy came through. When I had challenges, it was when I forgot I was God. Each time, it was when I forgot I was God. That was all that happened. Nothing else happened. All right, there's these things happening in the physical reality around about me that looks real, but all that's happened is you've forgotten you're God. That's it. You've forgotten that you and God are one and the same energy. And instead, you're aligning yourself with your God-given ego that God gave to you and created for you so that you could be purified. And, the word purification, it does denote cleanliness, right? So, and I do believe that we attach a lot of energy to words, and that all words are an energetic resource for us to see where we're vibrating at. The opposite of cleanliness is dirtiness, right? So I'm aware of that. I'm aware of purification. You're purifying something that's less than pure. Well, the most pure energy is unconditional love. That is the most pure energy that we have on the planet. Unconditional love, truth, curiosity. Why is this happening? Why do I keep getting sent to St. Aloysius College? Why did I get lost in this other town? And then, Marks and Spencer appeared before me like a mirage in the desert. And I was like, yeah, I can get the flowers that I've been looking for. Why was I sent to St. Aloysius College? Why was I placed in front of the women in the car hire place in order to see myself that morning, to see, well, wait a minute, why I'm heightened? I'm heightened because I'm driving to London. It's like, okay, sit in the car and take a minute to yourself, get back into your body. You are in this car, you are driving to London, you are equipped, you are well equipped to do this. If you weren't, you wouldn't have even been able to collect the car, you would have had to go on the train. So God obviously knows, because I held my hand up and I gave it all to God. God obviously knew that I was equipped for that trip to London. And I made 2 trips to London in 2 days, and we got everything moved and the stuff's in storage, and we'll do it all again in 3 weeks' time when we unstore all the stuff and put it into the new apartment. And she's great and she's fine, and she's staying with me for the next couple of weeks, and which her little sister is very happy about. and I'm constantly getting everything that I want and everything that I need, even when it looks like challenges, even when it looks like arguments, even when it looks like getting lost, and being sent on detours. God, the energy of God doesn't ever make mistakes. There are no mistakes. Everything is always as it should be in order for the evolution of our consciousness. I understand that that's hard to hear if you're slap bang in the middle of a lot of things that don't feel good. But if you could take a minute to get back into your body and realign with unconditional love, curiosity, truth, the understanding that you're always safe, that you always have this energy within you that is looking out for you, that is protecting you and providing for you everything that you need for the evolution of your spirit to the next level. I have talked for quite some time again, as always. Um, I can open the floor for the last 15 minutes for any Q&A that anybody wants to take part in, but I do realise that I've spoke for quite some time, which isn't like me. And my tea's most definitely cold, but I'm going to have a drink of it. But I also have water. But if anybody has any questions about anything that I've said about when you were in the car hire, how did you give it to God at that moment? What went through your body at that moment? When I was in the car hire place and I put my hand on the the desk and I said, right, I'm just going to give this all to God. What went through my body at that moment? If I tell you that I don't know, I know that that's not a great answer. What I can also tell you that it's a muscle that I've been strengthening for quite some time, and that is being present in my body. It's bringing myself back. It's an awareness that it's one of those things that when you switch the light on, the light's on. Yeah, okay, sometimes you switch it back off again, but you also always have the understanding that you know that you can switch the light on, right? So before all of this, I didn't know that there was a light switch on or off. I had no idea of it. And then I knew that there was a light switch where I could switch on my awareness. And sometimes it would switch back off again and I'd have to actively switch it back on. Before I didn't know that there was awareness. I didn't know it was a thing until things happened outside of myself that showed me. That's God, right? That's the highest energy. That's the thing that's constantly trying to get our attention to show us things. And if we don't listen, it just gets louder and louder and louder. And what that looks like is more and more and more challenges, which is why the sat nav kept sending me to the wrong place, wrong place, wrong place. You're not in your body, Ali. You're not in your body, Ali. We're going to keep sending you to the wrong place. Not the wrong place, to St. Aloysius, so that you go and it's God. Like, look, it's a saying. Look, I'm trying to send you to a church. Be back in your body, align back with God. These things are constantly happening round about us all the time. Like me ending up in Marks and Spencer and being able to buy the flowers that I'd originally said I wanted. We have to open our eyes to that. We have to have an awareness, a perception of it. Anybody that's sitting here on this call already has some sort of inkling, or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be on a call that says give it to God. You wouldn't be sitting in front of me. God, the energy within you knows the way. It's going to sit you in front of the right people, put you in the right places, put you in the situations where you need to be put in order to evolve in this way. And then it becomes a muscle that you train over time. It's like, oh, okay, I catch myself I catch myself 2 days later when I've behaved in a way that's less beneficial. Then I catch myself a day later when I've behaved in a way that's less beneficial. Then I catch myself in the moment of behaving in a way that's less than beneficial, which was I could feel my body starting to get heightened. We've also got tells. Mine's as my accent gets stronger, I become a bit more Scottish. I can feel my heart racing. I can feel like my palms getting sweaty, my breathing becomes a bit laboured, my body gets a bit tense. If I'm aware enough in the situation, then I can catch that sooner. I'm like, oh, I can hear my voice getting a bit tense, right? Okay, wait a minute, why am I getting tense here? That's a knowledge that's come over time, okay, and it's a muscle that's strengthened over time. It's like the first time someone points it out to you, Which is why I always say the best thing that you can ever do is get a coach, get a healer, get someone that you trust and you love to sit in front of you and point out to you when your central nervous system is becoming agitated and you're going into fight or flight mode. Have someone that you trust sitting in front of you going, wait a minute, like your breathing's becoming a bit laboured there, your brow's furrowing, what's going on inside your body? Why do you feel this way? Have a mirror in front of you and by that I mean an actual person that's going to point out to you the things that you don't know about yourself. That's what I mean about when the truth comes and it doesn't feel good. But if you trust the person that's telling you the truth, like the things that my daughter said to me, I didn't love to hear it, but I had to go back and look at the text and be like, some of what she said is true, some of it's exaggerated, some of it is, her perception of the things that I'm doing in this moment, which is not may or may not be true, and some of it's true. Doesn't feel good, but I need to go and look in the mirror, which I did in Marks and Spencer when I was in getting the flowers, and look in the mirror and go, okay, do you know what? See that thing that she said, that's true, go and apologise for that. Doesn't feel good in the moment. It does afterwards. It does afterwards when I've been like, okay, there's a lot of strength and a lot of power in telling the truth to myself. What your specific question was, what went through my body at that moment? God came through my body, and God will be there for you, and God will come through your body. God is constantly coming through your body. How do we get to an acknowledgement of it and an awareness of it? Honestly, coming places like this, sitting in front of people like me, not just me, there's millions all over the world that can help you. And having them show you a different perception of something that you're looking at in the play of your life, that's causing you to feel a certain energy in your body, a certain emotion that's tension, that's making things harder for you. Tell it to someone you trust, tell it to someone you love. A situation, get a different perception of it. That's from being around people that view things in different ways, and God will always put you in the path and in the presence of those people that you need. It's a really good question. What God is, what we are giving to God. So what at the top of the call I said, what do we give to God? Everything, every single thing that you have within you, give it all over to the highest energy that you carry. Give it all to God. God is unconditional love. God is curiosity. God is truth. Give every challenge, problem, issue, situation in your life, give it all to unconditional love, curiosity, and truth, and you're golden all the time. How do you do that? Surrender, surrender in the given moment, and just be like, what would happen if I just viewed this situation with unconditional love? What would happen if I just viewed this situation with curiosity? What would happen if I just looked in the mirror and looked at the truth of what's going on out there, and how that makes me feel within my system, and how that play is playing out in the 3D manifestation of my physical reality? Why is this happening? That's the curiosity part. Why is this happening? What am I here to learn? How is this going to help me evolve? You can evolve in the middle of the situation. I managed to do it a couple of times in the past couple of days. More often than not, the evolution was coming in an hour later or 2 hours later, or maybe even the next day. Often it was coming through my system rather than me going looking for it, which I'm very, very grateful to God for. That comes from spending a lot of time in meditation, and also taking good care of the physical system, having rituals and ceremony every single day, opening and closing rituals, opening and closing ceremonies, we call them in my program. Making sure that I'm feeding my physical body with really good food, hydrating it, moving it, meditating, journaling, being aware, being present, staying in my body. Doesn't always work. I've had many times in the past couple of days where I left my body and went into my head and tried to control the situation. Doesn't feel good, but it's there for the evolution of my consciousness. I now know things about myself that I didn't know 2 days ago. One of the other things is like you're always you'll always be reminded of the times when you leave your body and go into your head if you've got a small child like mine. So I had a meeting this morning in Francis' school with Francis' dad and our teacher and a lady that helps her in school. and I was talking about what happened on Monday, and I mentioned that I had said a swear word, and that more so to mention the energy that Francis brought to the conversation that night at the dinner table, and every person sitting around that room went, "Yeah, Francis told me about that." So Francis had gone to her dad's the next day and gone to school the next day and told everyone that her mum had said a swear word, because the thing was, she was very surprised by the fact that I'd used the F word, because it's not something that she hears me saying, and because we've been having all the conversations about words are very, very powerful, and they create your reality, and also they carry a lot of energy within them. So she's 10, and she said to me at the dinner table, "I was very surprised. I was very shocked that you said that, because it's not something you normally say." And I said, I didn't bring my best self to that situation today in the car, and I can only apologise. And she was like, "Yeah, you didn't bring your best self." And it was just able to have these conversations. But she was very non-judgmental and very kind, and that's what I was trying to convey to the staff members this morning. But to just know that sitting at the dinner table, sitting at that table on the scale, that she told everyone anyway, and I was like, okay, so there's me having the reminder that I um turned away from God in the car and lost myself for a moment and then come back again. So yeah, if you are and you've got these little kids round about you who are merely mirrors to show you what you carry within yourself, they'll always be there to remind you of times when you turn away from your highest self, and that certainly happened to me. So the theme of this week's workshop has been, what is God, or who is God, and what do we give to God? My take on that is, God is unconditional love, curiosity, and truth. Curiosity is knowledge, but we go through the gates of curiosity to find the knowledge. Truth is truth with ourselves, first of all, truth inside our own system, being able to look at ourselves in the eye and tell the truth to ourselves, tell ourselves where we're not showing up as our best self, tell ourselves where the habits and behaviours that we have in our everyday life are not in alignment with who we desire to be. Tell ourselves the truth of how we're making our lives more challenging than they need to be. And why would we do that? That's the curiosity, and then we find the knowledge for why we would do that thing, and we can purify the stagnant emotions of the past and get back to unconditional love, which is the emotion that we all came here vibrating at, and the one that we'll all go back to at the end of this life. That is what God is: unconditional love, curiosity, knowledge and curiosity, and truth. And what do we give to God? Everything, everything that you have within you, give it to God. Give it over to the higher power. Surrender. There is a higher power within you. It knows the way. It knows the way. You came here with with instructions encoded into your system in the form of intuition, in the form of that highest self speaking to you. You know what it is. You hear that voice within you. You hear your intuition. You feel it tapping you on the shoulder every now and again. You know what it is. It's a feeling, and you know what it is that I'm talking about when I'm saying it. You might not be able to describe it. You might not be able to understand it, but you know what it is. That is the God within you. That energy is always there. That instruction manual, that intuition, that access to this wonderful, knowledgeable power is within you at all times. Give it all over to that power. Give everything. Just I heard a saying this week, take your mental hands off of the situation and let spiritual hands do its work, which is, there's a flow to life, there is a way, there is a path that if we stop trying to fight it and we just flow downstream with it, we will get everything that we desire, and we will get it all joyfully and gloriously and enjoy it when we get it. That's the other thing, like I say to my clients all the time, you will have success in spite of yourself. You will have success while you're still vibrating at a state of fear, and God will give you this success, these desires that you're asking for. But if you don't clear the stagnant emotions along the way, you won't enjoy the desires when you get them. You'll get everything that you want. You'll realize that that's not the thing that's going to make you feel better. what's going to make you feel better is being present in the present moment and clearing the energies that you're carrying within yourself and realigning with unconditional love, knowledge through the gates of curiosity and truth. What my desire for everyone that comes to these workshops and everyone on this whole planet is that you get all of your desires and you enjoy yourself along the way. You enjoy the path to the desires. You do enjoy the desires when you get them, and then you create new desires. You enjoy the evolution to the version of you that gets the new desires, and you enjoy the new desires when you get them, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And you've always got more desires, and you've always got more evolution, and you've always got more to learn, and you've always got more purification, and you just enjoy yourself because that is the rules of the game. That's the game that we're all here to play. And as long as you know what you're doing, and it's like, oh, okay, even in the middle of that feels really, really challenging, that's here for the purification of my system so that I can evolve, so that next time I know, because now I'm like, the size of this car that I have hired, I'm like, it's practically a minibus. So I'm like, right, so I can practically drive a London bus now. Like somebody give me a bus license for a London bus, one of those big red double deckers. Nah, I'll be able to do that now. Like I was driving this little minibus all over Highgate. Right, so I only know that because I had the challenge of having to do it. God put that huge car stroke bus on my path because God was like, you can do this. You've got the capabilities for it. You're well equipped for it. Yeah, you might need purified along the way because you're getting, oh, I can't park and I can't reverse park and I can't do this and I can't do that. But that's your curiosity, your learning, your knowledge, and knowledge is power, and God is powerful, and you are powerful, and you carry the energy of God within you. And that's all I want you to learn this week, and it's all I want you to learn every week. I'll be back here next Wednesday. Sarah will be back to introduce us and tell us all the house rules. I will be back. We'll have a new theme, we'll have new stories, we'll have new things to talk about. If you've got any questions, you can write them in the comments. Also, the link to next week's call, if you want to join us live, is going to be somewhere. It's either going to be in the description or it's going to be in the comments. Sarah will put it somewhere, and I'm sure she said at the top of the call where it is. I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week, and thank you for joining me. Just remember, give it all to God. Everything, all of it, give it to God. You are God, and you can create anything that you want in this world. It's been good being here. I'll see you all next week.